Hey guys, you guys probably don't know me because this is technically going to be my very first video on my new YouTube channel. It's end of August 2022, so I'm so glad I'm finally making the push. But anyways, my name is Kacee Connolly. I'm the owner of Astrologically Sound, a astrology, tarot, intuitive healing type business. So that's my mini blurb. But the purpose of this video series that I'm jumping into right now for end of August 2022 is about Mercury Retrograde, in fact, because we are about to go into one on the 9th of September 2022. And I wanted to, excuse me, we're already like a week into the pre-shadow phase. So I really thought it'd be fun to go over some of the ins and outs of Mercury and Mercury retrograde, kind of like a boy or girl scout guide to how to navigate the waters of this planetary retrograde, because with astrology and most spiritual or metaphysical methodologies and systems, the more awareness you have, they're very good. They're very useful for reflection and awareness, to be able to zig and zag and dance with the universe, either in hindsight 2020 to be able to have personal growth happen because of that, or sometimes for to make better prepared choices when you might know something comes up, or when a certain cycle repeats, at least, All right, guys, so I know, by the way, that I don't think you can see this in the all the way back there, but it technically says Mercury retrograde, and this is for another part of the video series that I will show later, but has a little retrograde glyph. That is the glyph for Mercury, the planet, and the retrograde glyph right there. But I need to get a pen to mark it in darker, but that's on my to-do list. So what am I gonna jump into first? So let's explore Mercury. Sorry, I don't know, I just heard a noise. Anyways, nothing fell down in my room, so I don't know what the hell that was. But anyway, so let's explore Mercury, and I thought the best way to, in like Mercury retrograde, and explore the planet via the third archetype. I thought this was the best way to do it because the astrology is called a language, and or the alphabet of astrology, and it's built upon the 12 archetypes. And each archetype has three pieces each: a zodiac sign, a planet, and a house. So Mercury belongs to the third archetype. So let's explore the third archetype to get to learn more about Mercury and Mercury retrograde. First off, we have the third house. So all these things that I'm bringing up will basically all flow into what you deal with during Mercury retrograde. So just bear with me. If you're not seeing the connections, I will tie it. I'll hopefully tie it into a nice bow for you eventually here. So third house can represent small errands that you take, like in your car, your vehicle, around your local community, around town. So AKA, it's a good time to check your car or automobile to make sure that it's good to go. Of interesting story is that this doesn't happen every retrograde, but just so happens that the one I'm launching my YouTube channel with, 2 days ago, I swear to God, I was coming home from an errands with my dad, local errand, and my dad said he turned the key in our van, and he said that it sounds like, I don't know if the battery is dying or something, because there's some clicks. So we had to get AAA out later in the day, and found out that it's actually the starter, and that it could cause our van not to start at any time. So it's going to be like $600. So, and then I watched a pick a card on YouTube later that night, and it had the chariot card reversed, and the woman said, she's a fairy tarot. I love her. Lex said that I would check to make sure your car's good because you might run into some issues. So very synchronistic to what can be mechanical issues for the vehicles in your life during a Mercury retrograde. But again, that doesn't happen every retrograde because God, we wouldn't be able to deal with cars if they broke down every 3 times a year or 4 times a year. All right, so siblings is also something that is represented by the 3rd house. So siblings and communications of all kinds. So you can think about having communication, more phone calls, or I guess communications that go awry, miscommunications with siblings. There's also publishing projects that are covered here. So trying to like publish a book or publish your blog posts, social media posts, things like that, and little hiccups that can go on with that because your fingers and hands, which I'll cover with Mercury, is covered, or in Gemini covers the hands, so your fingers might flub up when you're typing your text. So got to just slow down and with that and be more aware. So formative learning, early education is also with the 3rd house. So like kindergarten through 6th grade in the US is kind of like grade school. Timing for education is ruled there. So if you happen to be a teacher, that you are a teacher in the grade school level, or you have kids that are in the grade school level of education, there might be something involved with that. Or I don't know how that would tie in, but it's just ruled by a 3rd house. So you'd have to comment below if you have any tie-in with that, if you have any extra frustrations, or I don't know, maybe there'd be legislation or some cutbacks or something like that. Hopefully not, but you know, you never know what frustrations would happen with the educational system, with the grade schools and stuff. So then our neighborhood and the surrounding area that we call our community, 3rd house represents that. And lastly, I listed correspondences of all kinds. So that's text, emails, letters, phone calls, video calls, voice memos, post-it notes, memos, and newsletters, etc. So there you go. So how this acts up in the retrograde period is that we really want to slow down, because really what happens during the retrograde season is that when any planet goes retrograde, it's like that, like if you can imagine this planet as a character, let's say a king or a sovereign or a teacher, and this sovereign, this king or queen or teacher is stepping off their throne or stepping away from the seat of at their desk in front of the classroom, and they're putting the little lunch sign on their desk or on the side of their throne and saying, I'll be back in 3 weeks or 2 months or however long the retrograde lasts for. And this is where humanity as a collective becomes much more responsible for running the show and making sure that we mind our P's and Q's. And it's really our time to slow down and be more reflective, more aware of what that planet usually runs more smoothly in our lives. Well, it might run a little bit more bumpier because archetypally it's not, you know, that sovereign, that king, that teacher isn't at the wheel anymore. So it's up to us to take more responsibility and to take better care that things are taken care of just a little bit slower, a little bit more attentively, and things don't slip by unnoticed. It's a great opportunity for self-development and getting really good grades with that teacher, because when that teacher comes back, especially Saturn, I know we're talking about Mercury, but when Saturn comes back, if he looks at your test grades and what you and all the work that you've done when he's been gone, and you have minded your P's and Q's and you've done the right thing karmically, even though you didn't have him breathing down your neck and reminding you of it, but you did it just because it was the right thing to do, then you get your pot of gold. You get your dharma, your rewards after that, usually after after Saturn retrograde goes direct, and so it's really cool. It's a way to prove ourselves that we could stand up to these little mini tests by the parts of our psyche is a part of the collective of our lives, the way we have to conduct ourselves in society and in our families, in our relationships and at work and all such things, which is what all the planets represent, the houses and the zodiac signs. And can we operate those different sections of our lives with having a little bit more responsibility several times a year, so and can we shine, get that gold star and be the teacher's pet in a way, and when we falter, can we have enough self-love to give ourselves a break and try better next time, or to reflect on what went wrong and to internalize and integrate the lessons that were hard perhaps to go through, but to move forward with the gold of the lesson, so that was a little aside on that about what the whole retrograde thing represents to me in a way. Visually, it's like the king or the teacher or the queen is getting off their throne or stepping away from the desk for a couple months or a couple weeks, and the classroom or the township kind of has to run things on their own now for a little bit. So Gemini, so now we're doing the third archetype. So we've done the third house. Now Gemini, the zodiac sign of the third archetype, represents the salesperson. So I would say be careful of being scammed by deals that might truly be too good to be true. Reread contracts several times over before signing if you can. It's very important. Gemini represents the communicator, the mouthpiece, and also the hands, like I mentioned. So using them. So when we're texting, when we're typing, the hands can be affected and kind of accidentally just start flubbing up, and that's like not connected to our brain as well, because I'll tell you what Mercury represents. It's not only the mouth, the hands, but it's also the brain. So there might be a disconnect between our brain and our hands during this time. It's not doesn't flow as smoothly. So we have to find ways to be patient and not blow a gasket or get frustrated and put more pressure on ourselves, make it worse, but to find ways to step back and to think, what are some strategies that I can slow down or get my typing or my texting a little bit better, or make sure that I'm rereading? What kind of tips and tricks and hacks can I do to make sure that I'm not missing anything when I'm re-editing my correspondences, my emails and such at work or for anything else like that? And because I usually don't, I'm not a health practitioner, I'm not a medical doctor, but I would say that because I suffer from carpal tunnel in both wrists, so I'm noticing that with a Mercury retrograde, if you have any kind of ailments like rheumatoid arthritis or anything, tendonitis or carpal tunnel in the wrist or anything with the hands, it's a good time to, during Mercury retrograde and the pre-shadow, post-shadow, to make sure that if you need to do if you've had an ailment you've been ignoring and you haven't scheduled a checkup for that ailment, a chronic ailment, a condition, then it might be a good idea to do it during this time, because I'm not saying it's going to get there's no telling what's going to happen, but you might just notice it be more of a pain in the ass or a pain in the hands, during this time, but it may or may not, Kind of depends on the weather, the dew point, all the other barometric pressure I'm finding out living on the East Coast now. But just want to give the heads up that the hands are very important as a Gemini, Mercury, third house, piece of the archetype. So you might notice any chronic ailments might pipe up. And with the hands are the gadgets and devices that we hold with our hands, like our phones or tablets and all that stuff, are also ruled by Gemini. So be careful of dropping them. You really, if you're at the store and you have a really good deal on a phone case or a tablet case, to the extra protective kind, definitely go for that one. If you tend to drop your devices a lot, little oopsies can happen more, I think, during Mercury retrograde to our devices. I literally dropped my phone so many times the other week that now it has like the protective coating has cracks. I have to get it replaced. So yep, it happens. So to wrap this up, I'm going to talk about Mercury, the third prong of the third archetype, the planet. And so Mercury represents our inner self-talk, so how we talk to ourselves inside our minds. Because it's the mouthpiece, it's both our own mouth and our own talking, and so it's both ours, others, and a source. So how other people talk to us and what we hear from spirit. So, it's good to pay attention to how do you speak to yourself. Is that self-talk healthy, or is it frustrating, or is it even angry and self-deprecating, or is it healthy and encouraging and self-empowering? And then how do you speak to others? Do you put people down or do you empower them? Are you supportive? Do you have boundaries to protect yourself? Are you patient? And or are you passive aggressive, or do you have a good balance of listening, active listening, and speaking and just good respect all the way around? And then also your spiritual conversation with spirit, because I obviously have I'm an astrologer and a card reader, and I'm very spiritual, so I wanted to bring in that Mercury is not just us talking to our to other people. It's also internal dialogue, and it's also the spiritual dialogue with spirit, whatever that's a blanket term, so whatever spirit what spirit is for you, God, Goddess, Yeshua, Allah, Buddha, everything that spirit, the source, could be for you. So again, I mentioned the inner, our inner, Mercury could be our inner critic because it rules Virgo, and Virgos can be very self-critical. But also that could be the shadow side, but the light side of Virgo and Mercury is your ability to find solutions to problems. They are the fix-it archetypes, the fix-it signs. Now with Gemini, it's your inner Peter Pan, never wanting to grow up, but it's also the eternal student within you, curious to know everything and anything. The Gemini sign connected to Mercury also loves to collect endless amounts of random data and factoids for later use. So you might go down the rabbit hole a few times and just get really into just collecting little, just really interesting things of data and factoids, watch documentaries, and you might wonder, why am I labeling things a little bit more? Why am I wanting to go minimalist during retrograde because the Virgo is going in? Or maybe you're thinking that you want to improve or change some things about yourself or your environment, because that's Virgo as well. Or maybe you want to tackle some tasks around your home that have needed to be fixed for a while. And then Mercury also represents our intelligence, our brains, and our smarts. So it's how we crunch the numbers. And so we can encounter some brain fog during Mercury retrograde. And it's good, again, to slow down, take a breath, and be patient, not to get as frustrated if we can manage it. And lastly, basic language skills, our native language especially, because the third house ties into that, what we grew up speaking, and whether that's one or multiple languages. And yeah, so I think that covers that. And thank you so much, guys. I didn't know this was going to be so long, the first one, but I hope it was informative. And I wish you guys so much. And so again, my name is Kacee, and so what is my outro? I totally forgot. It's my first time saying my outro. Yes. So astrology is my passion, empathy is my way, and love is my vibe. And if you like my vibe and you'd like to join my tribe, go ahead and press the subscribe button. And if you thought this video added to your day, then you press the like button and the bell if you want to be notified for the other things that I'm going to upload. I'm going to make this a mini series, and I might even have time to do some pick a cards for Mercury retrograde as well. So squish you guys and take care. Bye.